This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to a new season of the award-winning Adventures in Compliance, the podcast where we look at the Sherlock Holmes short stories, movies, novels, and related material from the angle of compliance. In this season, we're going to take up the novels of Arthur Conan Doyle around Sherlock Holmes. Of course, there are 4 of them: A Study in Scarlet, Hound of the Baskervilles, perhaps the most famous Sherlock Holmes story, The Sign of 4, and The Valley of Fear. We're going to take a deep dive into each one of these novels and going to explore them over 4 podcasts. So it'll be over the next 4 months that we'll be taking a deep dive into this season. The novels in many ways fill in the gaps about how and why and what Holmes does, and they're really a delicious deep dive exploration of Sherlock Holmes, his methods, his friendship with Watson, more of the backstory on Watson. And if you have the opportunity, they're relatively short, about 100 to 125 pages per novel. I would urge you to read these novels in their entirety. You can select them in one work and do that. And I had a ton of fun reading them and preparing for this new season. There are some great stories in here, and I know you will enjoy them. And I hope you will enjoy this season of Adventures in Compliance really as much as I've enjoyed reading the stories. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into a character I've long wanted to explore on Adventures in Compliance, and that's, of course, Holmes' sidekick, Dr. John Watson. In this podcast, we look at how they met, Watson's initial impressions of Holmes, but more importantly, what does the character Watson bring to the compliance professional for lessons learned? Dr. Watson himself is a paragon of service and integrity. He first appears to readers as a man profoundly impacted by his military service. Having served as an assistant surgeon in the British Army during the Second Anglo-Afghan War, Watson embodies loyalty, duty, and quiet resilience. He was shot in battle at least once and perhaps twice. He returns home physically and emotionally drained, a man searching for a new purpose and new direction in his life. Watson's wartime service instilled in him traits critical for not only the battlefield, but equally indispensable in the corporate compliance field: resilience, structured thinking under pressure, meticulous attention to detail, and unwavering ethical compass. These qualities, developed under the harshest conditions in war, equip him to handle complexity, confusion, crisis, elements not unfamiliar to today's compliance professional. His physical wounds and resulting pension leave Watson needing affordable lodging, and thus fatally introduced him to Sherlock Holmes, who was also looking for a roommate. This simple meeting, orchestrated by a mutual acquaintance, Stamford, provides momentous, setting the stage for one of the most iconic partnerships in all of literary history. The initial meeting between Holmes and Watson offers a fascinating insight into their collaboration. Watson is introduced to Holmes as an eccentric individual deeply immersed in experimental and forensic science, something alien and intriguing to Watson's own disciplined medical training. Watson's initial impressions reflect both curiosity and mild skepticism, much like his professional encountering unconventional compliance methods or innovative technologies for the first time. Watson's medical and military experiences quickly prove complementary to Holmes' brilliance in deductive reasoning. When the body of Enoch Drebber is found, Holmes' professional insights, calm demeanor, or rather Watson's professional insights, calm demeanor, and disciplined observation allow Holmes to not only test his deductions, but also refine and validate his theories. Watson, the skilled physician, provide Holmes critical grounding in the human element of their investigative work. This is not the John Watson of Nigel Bruce, but this is a Watson who is well-versed in science, steady on his feet, and a real ally and adjunct to Holmes, certainly not a buffoon. Holmes' investigative genius, while formidable, flourishes greatly with Watson's methodical presence. Watson provides stability, critical observation, and empathy, traits that Holmes does not always naturally exhibit. The presence of a trusted colleague who brings alternative perspectives and skills improves Holmes' capacity to comprehend complexities in human nature, motivation, and crime. These shared experiences in solving the murders of Enoch Strubber and Joseph Strangerson showcase Watson as more than a mere observer or chronicler. He is an active participant whose clear documentation of crime scenes, symptoms, and circumstances ensures a reliable foundation for Holmes' analysis. Watson's steady character and diligence complement Holmes' intuitive leaps, grounding his insights firmly in practical, real-world considerations. Watson's involvement in the case helps Holmes move beyond isolated brilliance to true investigative mastery. In compliance, we see similarly how pairing sharp analytic talent with professionals rooted in operational, law, or practical experience often yields the greatest compliance strategies. So, what are some takeaways for the compliance professional from the story of John Watson? Well, I think there are 5 key lessons that I'd like to explore with you. Number 1, diversified skill sets strengthen outcomes. The partnership of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson vividly illustrate the critical importance of diversified skill sets within any effective collaboration. Holmes brings an uncanny, intuitive balance to criminal investigations. His deductive reasoning and forensic analysis are second to none. However, it's Watson's complementary skills that allows Holmes to flourish fully. Watson, a trained medical and professional military veteran, possesses rigorous discipline, methodical observational abilities, and practical knowledge of the human anatomy. In a study in Scarlet, Watson meticulously records details such as the physical appearance and health of the victim, signs of violence, and environmental factors at the crime scenes. These details provide a firm foundation on which Holmes builds his deductions, preventing assumptions or oversight. Watson's professional training emphasizes the necessity of evidence-based conclusions and structured analysis. These attributes ground Holmes' intuitive leaps into verifiable facts, reinforcing Holmes' hypotheses or forcing him to reconsider flawed theories. For compliance professionals, this is a vital lesson. A compliance department should never rely on a single set of skills or perspectives. When a compliance team brings together expertise from diverse areas such as law, audit, operations, human resources, and technology, they become significantly more effective at identifying and mitigating risks. The blend of skill sets ensures a well-rounded, thorough approach to compliance, enhancing the organization's ability to proactively detect potential issues and understand their implications swiftly and remediate them. The pairing of Watson's structured discipline and Holmes' creative deductive flair thus demonstrates clearly that it is excellence in investigations or in compliance do not depend only on solitary genius. Rather, it relies on leveraging the complementary strengths of diverse individuals, each providing perspectives that enrich overall outcomes and improve organizational effectiveness. Number 2, or lesson 2, trust encourages innovation. One of the most compelling aspects of the Holmes-Watson partnership is that mutual trust that underpins their relationship from the start. Although initially baffled by Holmes' unconventional methodologies, Watson quickly develops a trust in his new colleague's analytical prowess. This trust encourages Holmes to explore innovative and experimental approaches without the fear of immediate criticism or dismissal. Watson's supportive, non-judgmental stance is crucial because it creates a psychological safety net for Holmes, empowering him to venture into bold hypotheses and unconventional strategies. In a study in Scarlet, Holmes experiments freely with forensic methods, chemical analysis, and logical deductions, knowing that Watson's trust and support provide him with the emotional and intellectual security he needs. Watson listens without prejudice, provides constructive feedback, and demonstrates genuine respect for Holmes' insights. Such trust is indispensable for innovation enabling individuals to push boundaries, test new theories, and sometimes even fail safely. In corporate compliance, this same principle applies. Compliance teams operate in an environment of mutual trust and psychological safety, are more likely to propose novel solutions, experiment with new and innovative technologies, and develop innovative ways to engage and educate and communicate with their customer base, i.e., company employees. Without trust, compliance professionals often default to conventional methods, potentially missing out on powerful innovations such as predictive analytics, AI-based monitoring tools, or behavioral analysis techniques. Watson's trust in Holmes exemplifies how an environmental supportive of innovation not only enhances outcomes, but also builds stronger, more agile compliance programs. Thus, fostering trust is essential for organizations that aim to navigate complex regulatory environments creatively and effectively. Lesson 3: Objective feedback sharpens analysis. Dr. Watson's role as an objective analytical sounding board is another crucial factor and facet of his contribution to Holmes' success. Holmes' brilliant mind, all while unmatched, often risks falling prey to confirmation bias or overconfidence. Watson provides a necessary counterbalance through careful and dispassionate feedback rooted in fact-based medical and logical expertise. This objective feedback forces Holmes to rigorously test and refine his hypotheses, eliminating errors or flawed assumptions before they derail an investigation. In a study in Scarlet, Watson's medically informed feedback on the victim's physical state and crime scene conditions prompt Holmes to consider factors he may have initially overlooked. Watson's detached, methodical observations help Holmes reconsider theories or validate others. The objective assessment reduces bias and enhances accuracy, ultimately strengthening Holmes' deductions. Compliance professionals can glean a direct parallel here. Within the compliance investigations or audits, objective feedback, provided either by an independent internal review or external auditors, often proves crucial. It prevents teams from becoming insulated in their analysis, helps challenge preconceived notions, and mitigates the risk of subjective interpretation of data. Robust, unbiased feedback from neutral parties sharpens a compliance program's precision and effectiveness. Objective critiques challenge compliance assumptions and decisions, ensuring risks are adequately evaluated and compliance strategies remain aligned with current regulatory standards and, of course, best practices. Thus, the Watson-Holmes relationship highlights the immense value of a structured, objective critique. Compliance departments should institutionalize processes for regular, unbiased feedback, encouraging clarity, accuracy, and continuous improvement in their investigative methods and decision-making. Lesson 4: Emotional intelligence deepens understanding. Watson's emotional intelligence brings a significant human dimension to Holmes' investigative approach, broadening and deepening Holmes' insights into criminal behavior and motives. Sort of sounds like the human in the loop in AI. While Holmes is undeniably gifted analytically, he sometimes lacks sensitivity to human emotions and interpersonal dynamics. Watson's compassionate and empathetic demeanor compensates for this gap, helping Holmes better comprehend human motivations and behavioral patterns. In a study in Scarlet, Watson's ability to engage empathetically with the victims, witnesses, and even suspects enables Holmes to glean a deeper insight into the case's psychological dimensions. Watson's sensitivity also makes their interactions with others smoother and more productive, providing Holmes with a richer contextual understanding, and enhancing the accuracy of his deductions and motives and intentions. Compliance professionals benefit similarly from emotional intelligence. Investigation or compliance initiatives often deal with sensitive human issues, fraud, misconduct, harassment, or ethical violations that require an understanding of psychological and behavioral dynamics. Emotional intelligence helps compliance teams better comprehend why employees behave in a certain way, how they respond to policies or pressures, and how best to engage employees in effective compliance initiatives. Compliance professionals who integrate emotional intelligence into their work can improve compliance messaging, how are communicated and received, enabling better internal reporting, more effective training, and increased employee engagement. Watson's example shows compliance teams that combine rigorous analytical uh, analysis with an emotional awareness, and this leads to a fuller understanding of organizational culture, compliance risk, creating an overall and more holistic and effective compliance framework. Finally, Watson's structured, detailed communication style significantly enhances Holmes' analytical and investigative ability. Watson carefully documents each step of their investigation, crime scenes, medical examinations, testimony, and evidence. This methodical communication allows Holmes to review, reassess, and adjust his theories based on clear and organized records of their work. In a study in Scarlet, Watson's meticulous documentation helps Holmes identify overlooked details, see connections between disparate pieces of information, and confidently pursue logical conclusion. Sounds a lot like data analytics. This structured communication forms a foundation for their shared decision-making process, ensuring transparency and clarity throughout their investigation. For the compliance professional, structured communication similarly serves as a cornerstone of effectiveness. Clear documentation of compliance actions, investigations, risk assessments, and decisions help establish accountability, providing necessary evidence during regulatory review, and of course aids in root cause analysis, leading to continuous improvement. Without systemic communication practices, compliance professionals become unclear, arbitrary, or difficult to reconstruct when challenged. Implementing well-structured communications practices such as standardized documentation methods, clear reporting procedures, and other routine informational briefings help compliance teams maintain transparency and clarity and consistency. These practices are essential for effective governance, adaptability, and evidentiary support during regulatory inquiries or internal assessments. Holmes' role thus underscores how disciplined communication habits significantly enhance organizational decision-making, oversight, and effectiveness. This story really lays out, I think, in a very, very powerful way, the teamwork of both Holmes and Watson together. And it, as I said in the podcast, it reinforces the vital importance of diversified trust, skills, and objectives, feedback, emotional intelligence, and structured communication. But it could be a model for the use of AI with you as a compliance professional as a human in the loop. How's that for a story written in the 1800s brought forward to 2025? This concludes our initial look into the Sherlock Holmes novel, A Study in Scarlet. As I mentioned at the start, I hope you will take the time to read this novel. It's a great detective novel, lots of lessons learned for the compliance professional, and lots to say about compliance programs, and ethics in an organization. The award-winning podcast Adventures in Compliance is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Would you like to start a podcast? In 2025, I think it would be a great time for you to start a podcast, and you can post it on the Compliance Podcast Network, the only podcast network in compliance and by far one of the most popular B2B podcast network around. So if you'd like more information on starting a podcast, please give me a shout. You can reach me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. I hope you will join me again next week, where I take a deep dive into specifically some of the investigative tools, tactics, and strategies used by Sherlock Holmes in A Study in Scarlet. They really do provide some great examples of how compliance professionals can use the methods of Sherlock Holmes in their compliance programs today. I know you will enjoy next week's episode, get a lot out of it, and perhaps even are able to incorporate some of Holmes' tactics, strategies, tools, and methods into your compliance program in 2025. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to visiting with you again next week.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.
Compliance Podcast Network. Start your mornings with daily compliance news, quick, sharp updates on the top compliance and ethics stories in under 5 minutes every morning in Compliance Podcast Network. Because compliance never sleeps. Need practical advice fast? Check out Compliance Tip of the Day. One actionable idea to level up your program. Short and sweet, every day on Compliance Podcast Network. Got 10 minutes? We've got the week's top 10 stories. 10 for 10 brings you the big compliance headlines. Fast, fun, and focused. Every Saturday on Compliance Podcast Network. And don't miss the Sunday Book Review, where compliance meets culture through must-read books and big ideas every Sunday in Compliance Podcast Network. Whether you're in the office, on a walk, or commuting, stay smart, stay ethical, stay tuned. Only on the Compliance Podcast Network. Available wherever you listen to podcasts.